Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the Kendall Hunt's Curriculum Overview to challenge your gifted and talented students. My name is Geraldine, and I'm one of the gifted sales consultants from Kendall Hunt. To give you a little background on me, I've been in education for 20 years, wearing a few different hats. Some of those years I spent in gifted education. Since this is a large webinar, you've all been muted, but we welcome your questions. So there is a Q&A area at the bottom of your screen. If you can scroll down there, you can hover over the bottom and it says Q&A. And then you can put your questions in there, and then Lisa or myself will be happy to answer them. Feel free to submit your questions at any time. If we get a lot of questions, we may hold off answering some of them till the end, but we'll try to get them during the time frame where your questions are relevant. One of the questions that we get most frequently is, are you going to be able to get a recording of the PowerPoint? And the answer is yes. We are recording it, and we will be sending that out to everyone that's registered today. So today we're so lucky to have Lisa LaRotonda conducting our webinar. Lisa currently serves as the Talent Development Specialist for Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District in North Carolina, as well as an adjunct instructor for Queen's University. Lisa has 23 years of educational experience in the CMS, and it includes following roles like classroom teacher, talent development teacher, a dean of students, learning immersion and talent development magnet coordinator. And Lisa has experience implementing gifted curriculum, challenging advanced learners, and providing professional development at the school district and state level. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I look forward today to introducing to you the units of study published by Kendall Hunt for gifted learners. We utilize these units in our district and CMS on a daily basis, and the units help us to ensure consistent, rigorous, and relevant instruction for our high ability students. The language arts units for gifted students were developed at the Center for Gifted Education at the College of William & Mary. These units are published by Kendall Hunt Publishing Company. There are 16 language arts units, and as you can see, 6 of these titles are new this year. The new titles are in red, and our district is utilizing all of the units. We started out with the previous units and have purchased the updated units and are really, really thrilled with the results that our students are producing as a result of using these units, the critical thinking, the dialogue, connections that they are making to real life experiences has really been amazing.
And Lisa, we just found out that a new one on top of that list called Mind Your Time is coming out the end of February. And that's for 5th and 6th grade.
Great, that's exciting. And it's nice to have a variety of the units so that you can target interest and specific needs of students. We found that we have purchased multiple units on each grade level to give us some options and choices within the instructional arena. The language arts curriculum goals you can see are listed on your screen, and the authors of the Center for Gifted Education Literature units looked at the needs of gifted students and the national reading standards to develop the 6 curricular goals. High ability students need curriculum that develops their analytical and interpretive skills. These units are designed so that students will be able to develop the analytical and interpretive skills in literature describing what a selected literary passage means. They need to be able to decide similarities and differences, make comparisons, make inferences about the similarities and differences, and look deeply into the meaning among selected works of literature. And I briefly mentioned before, make inferences on information in given passages, and then be able to create a title for the reading selection and provide a rationale to justify it. And that's really important, is the rationale and being able to explain their reasoning. And that's where students begin to internalize their learning. The development of persuasive writing skills is the second content goal of these units, and we want students to develop linguistic competency. In the webinar today, you will be introduced to the vocabulary web. There's also a grammar component to the units. And then goal 4 states that the students will develop listening and oral communication skills. They will learn to discriminate between informative and persuasive messages, organize oral presentations, evaluate an oral presentation, and develop skills of argument formulation. And I've really been pleased with the lessons that prepare students to give oral presentations. And as I was sharing this information with you, you were able to note that we are utilizing all of the thinking skills that help students arrive at the highest level of thinking, which is creating. The Center for Gifted Education units focus on the development of reasoning skills and language arts. The reasoning skills that the students learn by the Paul's reasoning model provides students with skills they need to solve real-world problems. And I am really happy that these skills correspond to the Common Core standards at an advanced level. And here again, pointing out the real-world connection, that's what we want the students to take the content from the units and be able to apply them in their current life and then their goals that they have for the future. The integrated curriculum model is included in the units, and the language arts units use Joyce Van Tassel-Vasquez's integrated curriculum model. This model focuses on 3 areas to address the needs of high ability students. The first dimension is the advanced content dimension. High ability students need rigorous, challenging curriculum to meet their needs. The units contain literature that is approximately 2 grade levels above the listed age levels. The curriculum has been carefully selected to focus on gifted students' need for challenge and complexity. It also uses literature that addresses multiple cultures. The process product dimension takes into consideration gifted and talented students' needs for exploration, fast pace, engaging activities, and open-ended products. The units focus on higher level learning by connecting to the activities through the issues and themes dimension. The overarching theme in the units is the concept of change. Gifted students have many curricular needs, and these research-based units were developed to meet those needs. And here you can see how all of the integration through the model ensures that all of the needs are met. Next, we're going to look at the language arts curriculum framework. Using these goals that you saw on the previous slide, a framework was developed. The framework introduced investigating literature through a concept, using the reasoning process, and learning language art content and skills. Many of the units follow the concept understanding change, since it is pervasive and timeless. To address reasoning skills, Richard Paul's reasoning model was selected. The literature web, which allows literary analysis and interpretation, persuasive writing, oral communication, and a grammar component that focuses on linguistic competency, were added to help students develop their language arts skills. So we're really getting a holistic view, and the students through these units have a holistic experience in being immersed in literature and the opportunity to extend. We'll look at each of these components in detail later when I cover the teaching models. As you can see, the teacher guide has a wealth of information. It includes an introduction to the teaching models that are used throughout the units. The models are explained, and there are questions to guide you through the models as you're teaching. However, the models also can be utilized with other texts, so it's really great when the students learn the models in the units and then apply to other texts that they are working with. There's a reading and resource list near the beginning of the teacher guide, which is very helpful. The guide also includes teaching tips to use during instruction. There's also a section that gives information about the needs of high ability learners. Each unit is equal to a semester of learning. However, each unit can go longer if you include extensions and enrichment. An average lesson is approximately 60 minutes long. There are suggestions in each unit for centers that you can use to develop and implement into your classroom. And each student is expected to keep a writer's notebook for use during the unit. There are several assessment options, including a pre and pre and post test, rubrics, a discussion participation log. Each unit includes a unit planner and a unit vocabulary list, as well as a glossary of literary terms. And then finally, each unit includes a letter to the family, and you can use it as a guide to be able to adapt the letter for the needs that are unique to your classroom. Here we see the unit planner at a glance, and this planner is located near the beginning of each teacher guide. Each lesson is listed in the unit planner. There's a column listing materials and an overview of the assignments. Teaching models, which we will look at today, extensions, homework, and assessments. The lessons are quite thorough, and you will feel very supported as you're implementing the unit. Some implementation tips. These units were developed for high ability students, and they promote student achievement gains. Each unit is intended for a semester's work. We talked about that a little bit earlier. However, they can be extended, and they can be utilized with a variety of grouping models, whole class instruction, small group instruction within the classroom, a pull-out or inclusion gifted programs. The literature selections were determined with gifted readers in mind, and in the setting within our district, we utilize all of the grouping models that were listed, and the contents of the unit work well in a variety of classroom settings, along with a variety of students, and you're able to differentiate to meet their needs. So let's look at some of the research-based models that are in the language arts units. There are 7 teaching models that are used consistently throughout the units to ensure emphasis on unit outcomes. The TABA model is a model of concept development, and the concept that's focused on in the language arts units is the change model. There's a literature web that is included, a hamburger model for persuasive writing, the Dagwood model, the reasoning model, and the research model. And like I mentioned earlier, you will learn to implement these units with a very guided approach. However, all of these models can be implemented in other content areas and with other texts that you would want to utilize in your classroom. Learning stations are included to help you support the learning that's taking place, as well as to help you provide enrichment and extension opportunities. They can be set up and made available for student use throughout the course of the unit. The learning stations help provide a change of pace during large time blocks of instruction, as well as allow students to explore topics of interest more fully. They are introduced in the lesson plans as they become relevant to the aspects of the unit being studied. Offering the choice for students to extend learning station activities encourages the students to take their understanding to a deeper level as they analyze, evaluate, and create. And this is where we see student ownership engaged. Journaling is a reflective part of the units, and the journaling helps the students to express the learning that's taking place and also be able to grapple with the content and internalize the content for their own use, and then being able to take the content that they have learned and participate in a scholarly dialogue. The students are expected to make journals throughout their work in the units. There's a vocabulary journal, a response journal, as well as a literature journal. And one way of organizing the journals is through the use of a 3-ring binder. I know with all of the technology available, you may want to use a device that has a notebook setup option as well if students have, if your school allows to bring your own technology, or you may have enough technology to serve the students. Assessments are very strong within the units and give you clear direction as to where the students are going, as well as reflection as where you are going as a teacher and adjustments that you might want to make during the instructional experience for the students. There are many opportunities for assessment. The first lesson in the unit includes a pre-assessment. There are 2 parts to the pre-assessment. The first part is the literature pre-assessment, and the second part is the persuasive writing pre-assessment. Students take a similar post-assessment at the end of the unit, and I score the pre-assessment and then save them so that the students can compare their scores after taking the post-assessment. And it's really exciting for the students to see the growth that they have made, and it's very rewarding as a teacher to see the growth that your students will make. Students write in a journal as they read and respond to the literature. The unit includes a journal response rubric that can be used for teacher assessment, peer evaluation, and student self-reflection. Prior to using the rubric for a student grade, I model scoring a response with the students and provide the students a response to practice scoring using the rubric. The unit includes evaluation forms for self-evaluation, peer evaluation, and teacher evaluation. Evaluation forms for oral presentations are also included in the unit. So the best practices we know for assessment include pre and post assessments, rubrics, and I really like that all of these are included in the unit. The units are aligned to the standards, and you will see a link on your screen that you can go and download the Common Core standards for the units, and then there are goals within each unit, and they're also aligned to the English standards developed by the National Council of Teachers. And we have found in our district that the units complement what we are teaching through the English language arts standards, as well as we're able to utilize them in other content areas to integrate reading with our content instruction.
We could always send that to them via email after the webinar too,
Okay.
Lisa.
Okay, sounds great. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the science units, and it's really nice because the science units also complement the language arts units, and so many of the models you will see, once the students learn them in the language arts unit, then they're able to build upon that knowledge as they implement those models in the science unit. The science units were also created at the Center for Gifted Education at the College of William and Mary, and the units were developed to be used as a 30-hour supplementary course to core science curriculum or as a specialized science program for the high ability learner. Each unit is organized around real-world problem, and that was what piqued our interest in our district. As we purchased the units, we were looking for problem-based learning, and the science units provide a problem that the students work through as they're learning the content, and definitely can connect it to current real-world issues that they may see or hear about on the news or in social issues. There are 8 units that are available, and you can see the units there on the screen. We currently utilize Where's the Beach and What a Find in our district, and we have been really, really thrilled with those units, and really excited to see the solutions that students are coming up with as they work through the units and work with the content in the units. Now we're going to look at the integrated curriculum model that was used as a basis for curriculum development with the language arts unit. It's also the basis for the development in the science units, and the model parallels the focus areas for differentiation. It is really nice because the units are supported by research, and the units were field tested, and the research findings indicate that significant and important treatment effects were found for students' ability to plan and experiment based on the use of the units. A similar pattern of effects was noted across units, grade levels, and grouping patterns. And then also responses to the units indicated high levels of engagement for both teachers and students. And I can definitely speak to the engagement with the problem-solving approach. It has increased engagement and piqued interest so that students want to go out and do further research even beyond the unit. The science curriculum framework focuses on the concept of systems, is explored throughout this framework and developed throughout the units. Students learn to use scientific research as they are learning the science content. The goals of the unit are to develop an understanding of the concept of systems, to develop specific content learning in science, and to develop the scientific research process skills. Now we're going to look at a unit planner. This is an example of what a unit planner looks like from the unit What to Find. You can see that there's an introduction followed by detailed lesson plans. Learning centers are also included and encouraged in the science units, similar to the language arts units. And I really encourage you to experiment with the learning centers and provide the opportunities for your students to make choice through the learning centers and also to work with the content independently at the learning centers. I think that's where we have really seen our students be able to communicate and have a dialogue about the content is as they work with the centers. Assessment is a critical component to the science unit as well, and it is embedded, assessments are embedded throughout the unit. Once again, there's a pre and post science assessment similar to the language arts unit, and then there is also a final content assessment. In addition to that, there are many activities that can be used as a part of a portfolio assessment, such as problem logs, lab reports, experimental design worksheets, and unit-specific forms. And then we are now ready to move into the social studies units. The social studies units, once again, complement the layout and framework of the language arts and the science units. They were also created by the Center for Gifted Education. Social studies units were designed to meet the specific needs of gifted and advanced learners while maintaining focus on mainstream learning standards for use in the classroom. The units emphasize concept development and primary source analysis within the context of high-level content and reflect on the focus of national standards in social studies, on historical thinking, and research on the integration of major concepts across the disciplines. There is a strong language arts emphasis in each of the units. The teachers in my district are integrating the social studies units into the language arts instruction, and that was one of the reasons we decided to purchase the units, is we saw a really great opportunity for integration, and the text within the social studies units meets the needs for the nonfiction text, as well as it addresses specific needs of the high ability learners. There are 11 social studies units, and as you can see, Ancient Egypt, Ancient Egypt, Gift of the Nile, and Ancient China are the two social studies units that my district currently utilizes, and we have really been impressed with the information that the students have learned from the units and the way that they are taking their learning into other content areas. And we recently purchased Building a New System, Colonial America, and we are real excited. I had a teacher today contact me and let me know some of the success that she's having with her students as she's implementing the new unit that our district purchased for this year.
So the Road to the White House, Lisa, grades 6 through 8, Kendall Hunt is updating that as we speak, and the new one is coming out, I want to say mid-June.
Okay. Once again, we see the integrated curriculum model, and what has been really nice for us is now that we are implementing language arts, science, and social studies units, we continue to see this model, and our students are becoming very familiar with the model as well as our teachers, which enhances the depth of the implementation that we can utilize, as well as the depth of learning that we can take our students to. The consistency is really, really nice as you begin to learn the units and then implement the units. The social studies curriculum goals, you can see they focus on concepts, once again, as we noted in the science and as well as in the language arts units. Once again, we see the reasoning skills coming in. We want our students to be able to reason and then apply the content, the interpersonal and group process skills, and then there's skills to develop historical analysis and the primary source interpretation. And I know that's a huge focus for us in our district, and that focus on the analysis and primary source interpretation is embedded within the unit. The curriculum framework focuses again on the content, process, and product, which are consistently addressed through all of the units. And so the units help us to naturally differentiate and make sure that we are touching on all the critical areas of instruction for our students. And once again, it's really important to make sure that resources that we are using are research-based and we are seeing positive outcomes. And here again, we see that happening. Students are engaged. Critical thinking is taking place while during the content learning. There's greater gains shown with students utilizing these units. And then the conceptual thinking gains is really exciting. There's not a significant gender difference, and differences in depth of implementation across schools and teachers correspond to the differences in performance among students. So very thorough outcomes that show that this is a positive curriculum choice to use. And I can definitely speak to the conceptual thinking gains. Utilizing social studies units that connects to an overarching concept has helped our students to broaden and deepen their thinking. Now, looking at the planning from this is taken from the teacher guide for the Ancient Egypt unit. And so this shows the layout of the planning. And as you can see, it's very, very user-friendly, but also it's very in-depth to make sure that you have all the information you need. My district purchased Ancient Egypt and Ancient China to nurture potential giftedness with our primary learners. We have expanded the use of the units with various grade levels and student groups based on the student and teacher needs. And then just as I mentioned before, we are now expanding to colonial times. Teachers have found the resources within the manual and the planning guides very helpful as they implement the units. And then the assessment of learning outcomes, once again, as in the other units, we see there are pre and post assessments, there's portfolio options, and then there are research projects as well. And it's really nice because there's multiple ways to assess students, multiple ways to engage students' interest to show their learning. Before we move into the math portion, are there any questions?
Yes, Lisa, I do have some questions. So the first one I have up here is, how was the critical thinking measured? Through the unit test or another test?
Well, there would be a variety of ways that the critical thinking is met. There's a lot of dialogue that takes place within the unit. There's the questioning. So critical thinking through the dialogue, as well as through the reflections in the students' journals as they are responding. The pre and post assessments show the critical thinking through as they have responded and the depth of their responses.
Okay, thank you. So let's see. This one says, which units, language arts, science, or social studies, do you recommend starting with? And I think I would say language arts, but Lisa, why don't you go ahead and take that?
I would agree with Geraldine. Language arts, I do believe, would be the best units to start with. We started with language arts in our district. Language arts, it's a natural fit and you're able to incorporate it naturally into what you're doing in your daily instruction. And I think it's a great place to start learning the models and the framework set up. And then once you learn the models and the framework, then begin to springboard into the science and the social studies units.
Okay, there's another one here. I'm not sure I understand the question. It says that the social studies info stated there were significant gains. Oh, okay, wait. Here, they typed it again. The social studies info stated there were significant gains. That's the question about how those gains were measured.
They would have been measured as when they were developing the units and working with the units and piloting the units through the students it's really, the students' responses are a huge part of the units, and their ability to go in depth with the content. They would have used the pre and the post assessments, as well as the journaling pieces within. And so they would have been able to look at pre-assessment versus post-assessment, and then the growth throughout the unit.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, that's it.
Okay, all right, we're going to now move into looking at the Project M Squared. We also use Project M Squared in our district. Project M Squared is mentoring young mathematicians. Units were developed under the direction of the University of Connecticut, and we started implementing these units at what is called our Learning Immersion Talent Development programs. That is a particular program that is focused in grades 3-5 for gifted learners, and then K2 for students, where we are creating an environment to nurture potential giftedness. And our teachers really like the problem solving, the depth of problem solving, and then the way that the characters engage the students, and the students think they really are having fun, but yet they are doing some really deep critical thinking as they are interacting with math concepts. Project M Squared units are available for kindergarten, first, and second grade. There are 6 units in the Mentoring Young Mathematicians series. There are 2 units for each grade level, and a geometry unit and a measurement unit for each grade level. And as I just spoke about, my district utilizes the M Squared to nurture potential giftedness in our kindergarten, first, and second grade students. And as I mentioned, we started with our learning immersion and talent development magnet schools. We have now expanded the use of M Squared units to all schools in our district. We found they were effective and wanted to provide the opportunity for all of our K2 students to be exposed to the curriculum and the problem solving that engages the students at the depth that the M Squared units offer. Our teachers and students love the creative and engaging content of the units, and students demonstrate complex thinking while engaged in the units and are active problem solvers. And if there's probably, from a personal perspective, that would be my greatest compliment to these units, is the students are active problem solvers as they work through the unit. The goals of the M Squared units include increased mathematics achievement and attitudes, and I can definitely speak to that. Our young learners are much more confident. They are speaking out and utilizing dialogue that a mathematician would use, and it's preparing them to engage with higher level critical thinking in math and more in-depth problem solving once they reach the grades 3-5. Then also developing the students' understanding of mathematical content and processes, creating challenging and motivational curriculum units, and then targeting the participation of traditionally underrepresented students. And that's really been important for us in our district. We needed curriculum that would engage the students, and that happens through the characters that are in the unit, but while they are engaged, to build confidence in their problem-solving skills, and these units have helped us with that. And then the units are also problem-based, and they connect to real-life experiences, which help our students as well. The features of the units are included on this screen, and a lesson in the Mentoring Young Mathematicians series is anywhere from 2 to 5 days long. There's an emphasis on depth versus breadth, and that's really important with gifted learners. We want them to go deeper with content and look at particular mathematical concepts in a variety of ways, and that's offered through the units. Students are allowed and encouraged to discover new concepts, and the lessons blend speaking, listening, and writing into mathematics. The program focuses on geometry and measurement. These are generally underrepresented concepts in elementary mathematics, and we find that the majority of math instruction at the primary and elementary levels focuses on number and operations, with little time devoted to geometry. Yet, NCTM gives as much emphasis to geometry as they do to number in the primary and elementary grade levels, and the same is true with measurements. So These units provide a resource to target areas of need that we need additional resources for with our students. When we consider geometry, it is only natural to think about spatial ability. Research has shown a strong correlation between spatial ability and problem solving, suggesting that spatial visualization is a good predictor of successful problem solving. In the primary grade, students should learn to recognize and name 2- and 3-dimensional shapes. As they move forward in their thinking about these shapes, they become more flexible about the characteristics that define a particular shapes. Students can learn to observe and describe geometric attributes and properties, including angles. They compare and classify objects based on likenesses and difference. They compose and decompose shapes, identify and describe congruent figures, and explore symmetrical shapes and figures. So I wanted to give you this description so that you could see the depth that the students have with the content, and then they are able, as they complete the units, to move into grade levels 3-5 with the depth of the mathematical language and concept to be successful and move on to further content in regards to those skills as they move into the upper grades. And I mentioned earlier that the characters within the units definitely keep the students engaged, and measurement is one of the most frequently used applications of mathematics. In the first grade measurement unit, using everyday measures, measuring with the Meerkat, students learn about measuring length, area, and capacity. And our teachers have spoken to the fact that the characters throughout the unit and using the characters to engage the students has made the learning very exciting. The lesson format, as you can see on the slide, that includes a planning phase as well as the lesson development and walks the teacher through everything that they need. All resources are there, and you're able to feel very confident to implement the lesson and then have all the information that you need in a lesson format.
Lisa, I'm going to interject there. Just since all of the units, they're all planned the same way. So once you use one of the units, it's the same thing for the rest. Everything is in the same spot, the planning, and so I just wanted to jump in and say that.
And that has been really nice as we have expanded units. Once we were able to train our teachers on an initial unit, then they become very familiar with the framework and the setup, and they are very comfortable to begin to implement a new unit because of the way that the units complement each other in their layout. Now we're going to talk about Project M Cubed, and these particular units focus on the needs of high ability students in 3rd through 5th grade. And the M Cubed Mentoring Mathematical Minds series was developed for students in grades 3 through 6. We utilize the units in our district for grade 3 through 5. However, they can be expanded to grade 6. We utilize M Cubed for students who quickly master core content and need enrichment to interact with the content at a deeper level. Our students engaged with M Cubed demonstrate complex mathematical reasoning through the active problem solving infused throughout the units. And this has been, the units have provided a great way for our teachers to compact some of the standards that our students are mastering, but they don't have to necessarily move to a new standard or go to the next grade level. They're able to go deeper with the content through the M Cubed units. The M Cubed goals, you can see there on your screen, very similar to the M Squared, you see mathematics achievement and attitudes increase, engagement increases with the hands-on problem solving that takes place. The understanding of the mathematical content and processes, and what I've really been pleased with is the students are able to communicate and have a dialogue about the concepts that they are learning, and the challenge creates motivation. And then once again, with our students from underrepresented populations, these units with the embedded problem solving, the engagement, and the supports that are in the unit helps us to reach the student who needs to advance at a little bit of a faster pace, and also the student that needs a little bit more support. And we'll see some of those supports that I'm referencing later in the presentation. The units that are offered are listed on the screen, and in our district, we use the algebra strand with students at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Our district identified algebra as our greatest need, and we decided to implement MCube to target our needs with algebra and the need to take students more in depth with that particular concept. Our teachers found the units a great professional resource for challenging advanced learners, and our students developed conceptually as mathematicians. Therefore, we now use additional units. We use Unraveling the Mystery of Molly Stone, Treasure from the Attic to target needs of our advanced learners. We are in the process of training teachers and preparing to implement all units in our Learning Immersion and Talent Development Magnet program, and I foresee us going district-wide with all of the units as well. The units are not only coincide with the NCTM content standards, but they are also based on what is considered exemplary gifted and talented practices. And that, again, that's another reason that we looked at these particular units, is because of the problem base that is embedded within the units. In each unit, students think and act like mathematicians. Students focus on critical and creative thinking and problem solving. They are encouraged to question, and I think that is a critical component. When the students learn to question concepts themselves, question their problem solving abilities, and then question each other, they internalize the learning and they begin to understand the whys behind the skills and concepts. And there are several supports within the unit that support students with questioning and then encourage students to become independent questioners. There are strong language arts, component listening, speaking, and writing that's embedded within each unit. And even though these units were developed for gifted and advanced students still need differentiation. And so hint cards and think beyond cards are embedded in each unit to meet the needs of different learners. And that's what I mentioned previously. The hint cards are supports for students who need some scaffolding, and the think beyond cards are students that are ready to move further with their thinking. Most of the lessons last between 3 and 4 days, and the units themselves run about 30 days based on approximately an hour each day. Some helpful features in the units are included on this slide, and we'll look at some as well on the next slide. Each teacher manual includes suggested unit pacing, and the pacing was based on feedback of the teachers during the pilot year as well as the field testing year. So I think that's really nice that as the units were created, teacher input was looked at when pacing was considered. And then at the beginning of the teacher manual, you'll find an overview of the lessons that can help guide you as you're making selections about your implementation of the unit. And then at the end of the lesson, you'll find what is called a quick look for each lesson. And this can help you to track, see where you are, and just do a quick check to make sure that I'm on target. But the quick check does not replace the information that is included in the unit. The information within the unit is critical to successful implementation of the unit. And then there are assessments. A unit test is included in the front of the teacher manual that is suggested to be used as a pre and post test for each unit, and a detailed rubric is included to assist with scoring. In addition, there are checkups throughout each unit to utilize as ongoing assessments. So once again, we note that best practice. We're pre-assessing, post-assessing, and then we're assessing all the way through the instructional experience. Some of the unit features we see listed on the screen. They are very teacher friendly. My teachers are able to guide themselves through the unit and be able to select what they want to utilize from the unit. We have offered formal training. Kendall Hunt offers training and consultants to come to a district and provide training. However, before we were able to have our teachers sit in formal training, they were able to begin to preview the units and begin to utilize the units. So I find that very helpful, that you can receive a unit and begin to understand that and not feel confused. There's connections to the standards, which is very important. The pacing, it's really nice to have some suggestions to know about pacing. You have all the materials there that you need. You have a list of those, as well as Kendall Hunt provides kits for the units also. And then you have your assessments and rubrics to support you in scoring the assessments. And we'll look at some additional features. The introduction explains the math basis and focus for the unit as a whole, and I think that's really important as a teacher to understand the overarching goals and the big focus of the unit, and then begin to dive into the skills, and so that as we can help our students not just to stay skill focused, but to be able to stay conceptually focused as well. So the unit provides information to help us do that as we're instructing students. There's a chapter introduction that sets up where you are and where you're going with your students in that chapter. So you've got a guide for you as you're moving throughout the unit. And then there's a brief section called Big Mathematical Ideas, and it explains the mathematical ideas for that lesson. And that is the information we really want our students to internalize and walk away thinking about these big ideas, not just a skill focus. The mathematical communication is the foundational principle for successfully using the Project M-Cubed units, and I highly suggest, if you're going to adopt this curriculum and you cannot have someone come to your district to do face-to-face training, then tap into the e-workshops and webinars offered by Kendall Hunt, just to help you become familiar with the mathematical communication. And once that's modeled and understood by students, that is where you really begin to see a growth in their conceptual learning. Here is the lesson format, very similar to the M squared. You have the planning phase, and talks about some of the ideas we were just talking about on the previous screen with the mathematical ideas. Then they have the teaching phase, and you're supported with guides for your pacing and guiding you through the unit. And then the assessment phase, once again, like we mentioned with the M squared units, with the pre and post test, and then also the checkups throughout the unit. The learning format really is to create a spirit of inquiry. The students become curious, they want to know more, and they're probed to extend their thinking and learning beyond the unit itself. And then there's a respect for each other through the dialogue and the way that they learn to interact with each other and respect each other's ideas. And I think that's really important for an engaging classroom, to have that level of respect. And there are classroom discussions that use talk moves that help students to understand how to communicate with each other in a respectful manner. The classroom environment is really important with the implementation of the M-Cubed units. And so within the unit, there are rights and obligations, and the recommendation of rights is listed on your screen, as well as the obligations, and these set the foundation for your classroom. The students must understand and buy into these rights and obligations in order for discussion to ultimately flourish in the classroom. And that is the point. Once our students are having a dialogue about the mathematical concepts, we know that then they are beginning to process those concepts and understand those concepts. I suggest you begin with the discussion of what a right is, and help the students understand that these rights are things that they are guaranteed to have in your room. And once they know I have these rights, then they can feel very comfortable in discussing their ideas about math and continue to learn and go deeper as they dialogue with the teacher as well as the students. So we talked just a minute ago about the talk moves. Here you see the talk moves, and all of these teach students how to communicate with each other in a respectful manner. And they build community in the classroom as well. The mathematical communication is key to the successful implementation of the unit. There is verbal communication as well as written communication that are embedded into the units. Verbally, the students will clarify and share their thoughts. They will learn to listen to others' thinking and sometimes maybe change their own thinking or add on to their thinking. They will deepen their own reasoning as they listen to a variety of ideas and explanations for problem solving, and then they will engage in the reasoning with others. And then the written component, 2 think deeply questions are included with each lesson, and so the students are encouraged to go deeper into the math concepts and as they answer the thinking deeply questions. Would recommend utilizing the thinking deeply questions and not skipping over those, because that's going to challenge those students who need to go beyond what might just be included in the core component of the lesson. There is a math messaging board, and this helps teachers engage students in classroom discussions. And the math messaging board consists of 4 sections. You can see on your screen the talk about it, keep a record, wrap it up, and write about it. And it's just a great way to keep us as the teacher focused as well as the students, and making sure that our classroom discussions are productive and focused on the mathematical concepts. Here are the hint cards that we mentioned a little bit earlier, and when you see groups having trouble, instead of going and providing the answer, you can give them a hint card, which can probe them in the right direction and help them to overcome the struggle on their own and celebrate independence and ownership of their learning. And then the Think Beyond cards. The Think Beyond cards help students to take the content deeper and go beyond just what is in the core of the lesson. And the Think Beyond cards provide opportunities for deeper critical thinking, and they address the needs of students that need more challenge. There are 3 to 4 hint cards and Think Beyond cards within each lesson. And these are great additions to support differentiation. And then the assessments, we have pre-assessments, post-assessments, checkups, think deeply questions, and verbal communication. You have seen through the presentation how each of these components of assessment are utilized throughout the unit, and so you're able to get a true assessment of where your students are using multiple assessment opportunities. Do you have any questions about the M squared or M cubed units?
Okay, Lisa, yes, I have a list here actually. First, one of the questions is, are there units for grades 6 through 8? And the answer is yes. The same authors that wrote M squared and M cubed have also written Math Innovations, which are units for grades 6 through 8 for advanced students. So if you would like information on that, you can send me an email and I can send you information on that. Some of the other questions I have here, is there a price guide? Yes, I can send you a price guide as well. My email will be on the last slide, I believe, and you can just email me and I can send you those. I would like to have samples as well as the pricing on the different math units. So yes, we do send samples out. We'll send samples for Center for Gifted Ed, William and Mary units, and the math units. We send them out on a 60-day complimentary review, so you can have them for 60 days and try some of the lessons, and then we can also send you a prepaid label to send them back if they're not working for you. Let's see what else. Have the math units been aligned to the Common Core? Yes, they have, and I can send you those as well. Let's see. What other one do I have here? Are there kits, or what materials are needed for the math units? Are there kits And are they included with the purchase of m squared and m cubed? So that's a two-part question. So the items that you need for m squared and m cubed would be obviously the teacher guide, and then there are the student mathematician journals that the students use. There are kits, they don't come along, everything is sold separately because a lot of schools have materials, but there are kits that go with some of the units. Not all of the units have kits because they're probably items that you already have in your classroom. I think that's it. So they are sold separately, but I can send you information on those as well. Let's see. Okay, I think that one just went away. So I think I answered everything. Lisa, did you have anything last to say? We have about 4 minutes.
Just want to encourage you to preview some of the units, try the units. They are wonderful. Our district found out once we started with one of the units, we have expanded, and we are now using the majority of the units that are offered for the language arts, science, social studies, and math. And it is really, really exciting to see what students can do with curriculum that is written for advanced and high ability students. And when teachers are supported with questioning, activities, and problems that are embedded to meet the needs of the advanced learner, and it really advances the instruction of the teacher as well. And I am a true believer in the resources that we have talked about today, and as well, I'm available if you have questions, feel free to contact me also.
All right, thank you so much for joining the webinar today, everybody. We will be sending out the PowerPoint, and again, our emails are listed there and my phone number. If you have any questions or if you'd like to preview some of the units, just let us know. Thanks and have a great day.